The only way that I can describe Mўътабар is that she's a force of nature. She has never been one to worry or limit her speech because of the potential consequences.
And this, boldness comes from her confidence. What she is doing, it is right. I think she was like a real shining light to people around her, that people drew strength and courage from her presence, and that in Uzbekistan is such a rare thing.
She believes in a different future for her country, and she's worked very hard to try to create that future, and it got her in a lot of trouble.
He tried to threaten her or to silence her or make a deal with her,
but it didn't stop her.
In years of working in Uzbekistan, I haven't met anybody quite like her. A lot of very brave people, but she really stands out.
She's very small, but you can't let her size trick you.
Ladies and gentlemen,
on the 20th of November 2008, during a ceremony held in the Museum of l'Arena in Geneva, Mўътабар Тожибоева from Uzbekistan received the Martin Энналс Award for Human Rights Defenders from a jury composed of 10 international human rights organizations.
you had to go through a lot of suffering while defending human rights. You were imprisoned, you were tortured, you went through a lot of pain. Would you have done all this, would you still have defended human rights the way you did, had you known that you would have to go through all this suffering?
Yo'q, avvalo bunchalar darajada bir haligi vahshiy, menga nisbatan vahshiy munosabatda bo'lishlarini.
When I started my human rights activities, I wouldn't have imagined that the repression against me, the harassment would be so strong.
Kasbimga shunchalar darajada mehr qo'ydimki, hattoki qachonki meni uyimni yondirgan.
Of course, I had already experienced many problems before being arrested. They tried everything against me. They used prostitutes to beat me. They had a group of men kidnap me and harass me. But that didn't stop me from continuing my work, as I kept believing in what I was doing. I couldn't surrender. Even when I was in prison, when I thought that I wouldn't make it out alive, even at that time, I thought that I couldn't stop my work. Even when I was tortured in prison, I thought I would never stop my activities.
We do focus on the person who has shown tremendous courage, innovation, who has not been pressurized into silence, and by doing so we hope to show to the world that there are very normal, courageous people. Heroes are normal people who do extraordinary things in extraordinary times.
Я до моего ареста читала это поэт Ахунджан Хакимова. Это «Спящий лево не трогайте в клетке». Потом вот эта книга я читала, вот это стихотворение совсем другой мне дали это энергию. Не забудьте, мы в клетке, но все равно они от нас пугаются. Когда меня изолятор закрывали, всегда один экземпляр от этих стихотворений в моем кармане был. Когда они меня обыск сделали, всегда они нашли вот это стихотворение, чтобы их это психологическое давление сделать. Когда меня избили, когда меня арестовали, когда похитили, изнасиловали, и вот против меня, моей деятельности, что они не сделали бы, это все дали мне мужество, и я опять продолжала свою борьбу. И вот в конце они только сломали меня это физически, а духовно они не смогли сломать меня.
It's clear from many reports from Human Rights Watch and other sources in the Human Rights Watch community that the situation in terms of human rights is continuously degrading. It's a continued serious abuses of human rights. The situation has gotten worse after Andijan and continues to go down the wrong way.
In connection with terrorist acts committed in the city of Andijan on May 2005, it was established the following. On May 12-13th, from the period 23:45 till 45 minutes past midnight, within 1 hour. About 260 armed terrorists in 13 groups attacked the division.
The Andijan demonstration began in the winter of 2004. Some local businessmen, 23 of them, had been arrested and they were charged and going on trial.
They're peaceful, well-organised and absolutely determined. The supporters of 23 young men accused of Islamic extremism.
These people have come here today because they want justice for their sons, their brothers, their friends who are inside the courthouse.
I had the chance to speak to the prosecutor who demanded 6 years of imprisonment, and the prosecutor answered me.
Poverty, unemployment, justice, having a son in prison, these are the constant aches of every family in Uzbekistan. Every story, behind every door in the country you'll find these things. The army began to build up on two sides of the crowd, and it really didn't look as though they would just storm in.
I was convinced, as I was standing on the place in Andijan, that never a government is going to use indiscriminate force against thousands of people which were on the place.
Human rights groups say the army killed more than 500 defenseless people. Officials are angry that Andijan continues to make the headlines. Where in Uzbekistan were the protests meant to have been, he says. What rubbish is this?
In Press and Information Agency, we didn't write anything about massacre. We didn't write anything about the murdering of simple people. We just accused the foreign countries. It was an order of president, of course.
you must see how the government, which is very strong in Uzbekistan and trying to destroy all the traces of the crime.
It was obvious that they want to turn everything upside down and accuse you. If you reported about the shooting, it means you are a falsificator or traitor or liar, not them who've been killing people.
There are people saying no, that were terrorists, the government has some right to shoot them. And then you're feeling you have to tell them that it's not true. You have to tell them what you saw.
It was the moment at which the people were within a millimetre of standing up to the government and asking for accountability, and I think the government showed its true colours in acting as it did.
In March 2006, Mўътабар Тожибоева was officially imprisoned on more than a dozen charges, including slander and extortion. But to all independent observers, the main motive must have been her outspoken criticism of the government over the massacre in Andijan.
My assessment when I was there is that the outside image looks quite good, even when you're walking through the streets. Everything looks well, people are going to markets, they're going to their jobs, to schools, you can work, you can meet people, you can watch TV in your hotel room, you can watch BBC and CNN, and everything is good. But then at the slightest moment, the government can turn all that off. At any moment they can restrict websites, which they do, they restrict access to international websites. At any moment there is no longer BBC and CNN in your hotel room. And at any moment, they can take action against individuals who have spoken to foreign media or to our researchers. So, although the outside veneer looks kind of okay, it's not at all that way. And I think that after Andijan, there's a clear break from that, and that maybe even the veneer is not there anymore.
I do not see any improvements, and everything what the government has done since the Andijan massacre just tricks to cheat the West. I want to give some examples.
Uzbekistan. Today this notion cannot be perceived only as a place inhabited by a particular nation. Uzbekistan...
My impression is that the situation has not basically changed, and that in fact the Andijan killings massacre, since then it might even have, the repression has increased.
Karimov is such a president, he is such a dictator who wish to stay in the power. That's all. This is his wish. This is his essence of his activity.
Sometimes you can feel even he just sincerely surprised and kind of even anger. Why you interfere in my garden? It's my deal what I'm doing.
I had access to top secret documents. I had access to meet with the president. In that time, I have heard, I have seen by my own eyes that president orders to fabricate accusation to simple Muslim believers.
At the present trend of globalization, Uzbekistan is striving to strengthen its friendly ties with almost all states of the world, and it's contributing to the stable operations of peace not only in the region but also in the whole world.
War on terror helps Karimov very much. This is the only fear what he explores for so many years, and we had some explosions, very strange explosions in Uzbekistan, which always happened before the elections. And of course Karimov justifies it, saying that, you see, we are under attack of terrorists. And those countries in the West who are also fighting terrorists, they can't blame.
myself also fabricated a lot of cases. You drink 200 grams of vodka or alcohol and you will be brave and you can fabricate everything.
I have no strategy to deal with Uzbekistan, but certainly we have to continue to speak to them, to criticize also. Also from the awareness that we also have our own shortcomings and failures. But the worst thing is, I think, is just to ignore it and to keep silent.
The government, if they manage to survive after the massacre and to silence the most critical voices in Uzbekistan, I feel like even those who are outside of Uzbekistan, they a little bit tired to work because we do not feel the country. Every day when you write something and you start really thinking that how long I will do this, if there is any sense to do it. Unsatisfaction comes, I think, to anyone who works. And after, I think, finally, some people can come to say, like, I can't change anything. Let Karimov be.
The blissful land of Mother and Ahar is waiting for its investors.
When I was in Geneva, I saw a protest in front of the United Nations headquarters. You know, when we organize such a protest in Uzbekistan, the government always uses intimidations against us to stop the protest. I hope that one day, in my country, people will be able to freely participate in demonstrations and freely express their opinions.
There was a presidential amnesty last year. People like Mўътабар Тожибоева have been released, albeit conditionally. But earlier this year, June, July, we saw another 2 people being arrested, given 10-year prison terms, again, strongly linked to their human rights activity. Other people have this year felt that they had to flee the country to go into exile.
Stop the protest. I hope that one day, in my country, people will be able to freely participate in demonstrations and freely express their opinions.
There was a presidential amnesty last year. People like Mўътабар Тожибоева have been released, albeit conditionally. But earlier this year, June, July, we saw another 2 people being arrested, given 10-year prison terms, again, strongly linked to their human rights activity. Other people have this year felt that they had to flee the country to go into exile because of pressure on them. There's pressure also on journalists, independent journalists, and perhaps in the most unpleasant of all, pressure on the families of these people as well. So it's not just the activists or the independent journalists who are subject to this persecution, but it's their families also.
Mўътабар now joins the distinguished list of honorees who have carried the torch of human rights to the darkest corners of the world. With the acceptance of this prestigious award, I do hope that her torch will burn ever brighter, encouraging and inspiring many others to join the March for Human Rights. Thank you very much.
Salom, hurmatli xonimlar va janoblar.
According to international and Uzbek human rights organizations, there are approximately 1,000 political prisoners in my country. Dictatorial regimes can easily destroy people's lives, families, and even a nation as a whole. My release from prison proves that solidarity and unity in fighting for human rights brings results. I think that through a continuous struggle, we can get liberty for all the other dissidents in Uzbekistan who are still in jail. Thank you to all of you on behalf of the Uzbek people for your support.
Of
course, when I go back to Uzbekistan with the Martin Энналс Award, I hope that the repression, the intimidation, the harassment against me will decrease. I wish the Uzbek government will understand that after being granted such an award, there are people behind me, supporting me in Europe.
In what sense do you think you may help solve the human rights situation within that country? Because it's one thing to bring somebody in the spotlight or help bring protection to that person, but how do you actually help the human rights situation overall in the country?
Yeah. Of course, the most important actors to change the human rights situation in the country are the people themselves, including the human rights defenders. We are not an organization that is aiming at regime change. That's not our mandate. Now, the human rights defenders do generally feel tremendously encouraged if even one of them gets the recognition. Every single laureate of the Martin Энналс Award up till now has always dedicated the award to the whole human rights movement in that country, to the people who have stood up, the people who are in prison. Mўътабар wants to use the award to help other political prisoners in Uzbekistan. So it's very clear that it's the whole human rights movement in the country that feels identified.
See you. Well, tell Mўътабар I am extremely happy to finally meet her.
Рад вас видеть. Спасибо. Я очень. She is glad to.
Maybe not totally healthy, but at least free to walk around and be careful.
Вы были, рисковали, а не мы.
А вот я поехала в Германию, чтобы диагностика сделать и лечиться.
Вероятно, с очень большой вероятностью, что причина ваших жалоб спрятана в том, что вы перенесли за последние пару лет. И тут я вижу прямую связь между этим и другим. Мы уже пару дней занимаемся диагностикой, это придется продолжить. Я надеюсь, что пройдут еще 2-3 дня, и мы будем точно знать, что это. Да. Ja, ich versuche es mal kurz zu sagen. Die Dame saß dort 3 Jahre in einem Gefängnis wegen politischer Verfolgung, ist dort misshandelt worden, ist dort dann zwangsweise operiert worden, wurde nichts erklärt, was gemacht wird, warum es gemacht wird. So ist es zu mir zumindest übertragen worden.
Мне вот это обязательно нужно, потому что я должна продолжать борьбу. Я нужна узбекскому народу. Когда меня арестовали, что если я, которые они мне предлагали, что я писала, если я вот это писала бы, я не сидела. Я сама была свободна, а моя душа была в клетке. А сейчас, вот это время, я была в клетке, а моя душа всегда была свободной. Правительству или президент Каримову когда угодно будет, тогда сможет они опять меня закрывать или убивать, чтобы остановился мою деятельность. И я на это готова. Tutunsiz yanaman sensiz yedim kaşana zinetli. Bugün vayronam sensiz. Meni oy taşı basgan mum, parishonlikda qolganman. Ko'zim o'ngida surati, anya parvonaman sensiz. Не могу продолжать.